Yi Chen directed a pointed question toward Jiang Hao, inquiring whether he was being compelled into a confrontation. Jiang Hao casually affirmed the premise, following up with a simple challenge regarding the query itself. Jiang Hao then dismissed the potential severity of their actions, claiming the ultimate punishment would amount to nothing more than being grounded to ponder their misdeed. At this, Bertu directly confronted the elite disciples, accusing them of bullying the vulnerable and declaring their actions a disgrace. Simultaneously, Bertu moved to interpose himself, shielding Yi Chen while openly challenging the elite disciples' integrity. He questioned their honor, asking if they truly intended to engage in a 2-on-1 fight against a single spirit concentration disciple, and wondering if they would not feel shame should their actions become widely known. Without warning, Jiang Hao suddenly lunged forward with a sharp attack, directly asserting that Yi Chen would not be permitted to leave. Yi Chen reacted instantly, moving to meet the assault. As his counterattack connected, a powerful boom reverberated through the air. Although he succeeded in repelling Jiang Hao, the effort exacted a heavy toll. Yi Chen immediately coughed blood and staggered backward, gasping for air. Internally, he noted the rapid depletion of his spiritual energy, lamenting that if he were at his peak, he could instantly kill the man who had just attacked him. Suddenly, Zishan charged from above with his sword. Bertu moved instantly, his club meeting Zishan's blade with a loud clang as he positioned himself protectively behind Yi Chen. He denounced the attackers' shamelessness as men, stating they disgraced their elite disciple status by attacking together. As they both braced to confront the duo, Bertu scornfully dismissed the opponents. Despite Bertu backing him in the fight, Yi Chen was sent staggering backward, immediately coughing blood from the impact and overwhelming pressure. The assault intensified as another disciple joined the fray, delivering a palm attack toward Yi Chen's back. Before Yi Chen could fully recover, another strike followed, piercing Yi Chen in his right arm as more disciples surged forward, all demanding Yi Chen's demise. The neutral crowd was stunned by the attack, questioning the assailant's fearlessness and Elder Daoji's absence. When word spread that the elder wasn't present, they realized the attackers must have had powerful backing to act so openly, and grimly concluded that Yi Chen was doomed. A chilling, thunderous energy suddenly spread throughout the arena, causing the disciples to immediately recognize the spiritual signature and realize that someone was deploying the Heaven Thunder incantation. In a sudden, desperate surge, Yi Chen, now engulfed in fury, manifested the explosive Heaven Thunder incantation in both hands, directly challenging his attackers and declaring his intent to blow them up. The opposing disciples immediately cried out in outrage, accusing Yi Chen of violating the sect rules by using the powerful, forbidden technique. Yi Chen defiantly countered their accusation, arguing that since they had already attacked him during a duel and he was destined to die anyway, he had every right to use it, vowing to drag them all to hell with him. Yi Chen let loose a final cry of disgust, condemning the entire group of adversaries and expressing his overwhelming sickness of their deceit. His opponents instantly recoiled, realizing Yi Chen had gone mad, an observation Yi Chen affirmed, declaring that their treachery had driven him to madness. With that, Yi Chen hurled a final challenge at the attacking disciples, daring them to show their courage by fighting him, knowing that under the full force of the incantation, they would all be smashed into pieces. He taunted them, repeating his demand that the cowards face him. Just then, Yin Ping suddenly appeared, immediately confronting Yi Chen and demanding to know how he dared use the Heaven Thunder incantation within the sect boundaries. Yi Chen challenged Yin Ping's narrow focus, asking why he only noticed the incantation but ignored the fact that he was attacked during the duel. Yin Ping dismissed the defense, claiming the attack provided no justification for using the forbidden technique. Yi Chen countered, asking if Yin Ping expected him to allow himself to be killed without resisting, arguing that he used the incantation purely for self-preservation. Ignoring the logic, Yin Ping began channeling a binding qi toward Yi Chen, declaring that Yi Chen would now be tried at the disciplinary hall. Yin Ping then ordered his companions to take Yi Chen to the hall, and they swiftly affirmed the command. Then, assuming a hypocritically formal air, Yin Ping announced the disciplinary hall's unwavering commitment to fairness and honesty, and immediately ordered the guards to bring everyone else involved back to the hall. Noticing this subtle interaction, Bertu instantly concluded that the parties had been conspiring for a long time. Yi Chen looked back at Bertu and instructed him to take Hua and the others out of the sect. Bertu acknowledged the command, but inwardly recognized the gravity of the situation, realizing the backers of the two mounts were too strong. Even his own family's maximum effort would struggle to save Yi Chen in the disciplinary hall. Suddenly, a thought struck Bertu, turning his gaze back to the smiling duo. Backers. He contemplated that if this confrontation was truly a competition about who possessed the most powerful backers, he would find Yi Chen a supporter the opposition couldn't afford to mess with. The scene abruptly shifted to the disciplinary hall, where a stern voice immediately confronted Yi Chen, accusing him of using the Heaven Thunder incantation within the sect's walls. Yin Ping pressed the matter, demanding that Yi Chen admit to the crime. Yi Chen fiercely denied the accusation of criminality, asserting he only used the forbidden technique for self-preservation because his opponents intended to kill him. The opposing disciples immediately denounced this claim, vehemently accusing Yi Chen of slander and insisting the encounter had been merely a sparring match, calling his defense a fabrication. They urged Yin Ping not to listen to Yi Chen's lies. Yin Ping took up their cause, pronouncing that Yi Chen should be condemned for using the incantation, deeming him ruthless despite his youth. The opposing disciples quickly agreed, arguing that failure to punish Yi Chen would mean the collapse of the Hengyu sect's rules. The neutral onlookers, witnessing the blatant perversion of right and wrong, quietly questioned the injustice, realizing that no one dared speak for Yi Chen despite being so powerful. They resolved not to get involved in the trouble. Yin Ping then mockingly challenged Yi Chen, noting his sudden silence and asking if he had nothing more to say, adding that silence would be taken as acquiescence. Yi Chen abruptly cut off the official, dismissing his words as meaningless. Yi Chen simply told them to bring it on. Yin Ping responded with a harsh laugh, declaring the situation resolved. He then stated that according to Article 9 of the Hengyu sect's rules, a disciple who uses the Heaven Thunder incantation within the sect shall be punished by death. He then began preparing the execution process, spitefully informing Yi Chen there were different death penalties, and suggesting that if he begged, he might grant him a quick death. Suddenly, a hand was placed on Yin Ping's shoulder. Elder Zhang interceded, desperately pleading that Yi Chen not be killed, offering to take his place instead. Chained and desperate, Yi Chen cried out, urging his elder not to plead with their captors, but rather to flee, telling him to leave the Hengyu sect and take Hua with him. Yin Ping turned, mocking the old man by asking if he truly thought Yi Chen could be let go. Elder Zhang hushed Yi Chen, calling him a silly boy before addressing Yin Ping directly, begging him by name to release Yi Chen because he was just a child. Yin Ping met this plea with cold contempt, remarking that while Zhang Fengnian may have lost his cultivation, surely he hadn't lost his mind. Yin Ping restated the unforgiving charge. Yi Chen's use of the Heaven Thunder incantation was a capital crime. The gravity of the situation caused the elder's walking stick to clatter loudly to the floor as he dropped to his knees before Yin Ping. Yi Chen watched, his face contorted in a silent scream of anger. The chains around Yi Chen clattered in rhythm with his guttural shouts of rage, demanding to know how the elder could kneel to this man. Ignoring his fury, the elder began to repeatedly kowtow, his head striking the floor as he begged for Yi Chen's release. Yin Ping remained entirely unmoved, telling the old man that he failed to understand. Yi Chen was guilty of a capital crime, and no amount of bowing was enough, as no one could save him. In a final, heartbreaking move, Elder Zhang threw himself forward toward Yin Ping, pleading with the man by name to kill him instead and trade his life for Yi Chen. The response was swift and brutal. Yin Ping delivered a violent kick, sending the elder stumbling backward. He dismissed the old man as a loser who could not make a deal with him, ordering him to get out of here. Despite the official's cruel rejection, the elder persisted, pleading that the youth was merely a boy and imploring the official to release him. Yin Ping responded not with words, but with a second violent kick, ordering the old man to vacate the premises and not soil his robes. Yi Chen, witnessing the renewed indignity, shouted in uncontrollable fury, his rage directed specifically at Yin Zhaiping. Enraged, Yi Chen declared a devastating vow. Should he survive the day, he would personally drag the official to hell. And even if he perished now, he would return as a vengeful ghost to endlessly haunt him. Yin Ping dismissed the threat as the ravings of a madman and immediately commanded the execution to proceed. Yi Chen continued to scream a terrible prophecy, swearing that Yin Zhaiping would face a horrible death. With a swift swish, the executioner swung the sword high above Yi Chen's head, while the opposing disciples jeered that the youth was now certain to die. But before the blade could descend, a sharp crack and clank instantly shattered the action. The sword was abruptly cut in half mid-swing. Yin Ping and the others immediately tensed, their faces shifting to visible nervousness. The cause of the interruption was revealed as Sufu, the head of the Hengyu sect's elixir house. The sect's only alchemist, and a senior to the current leader, slowly moved into the hall. He marked the severity of the confrontation with a casual observation, remarking that the disciplinary hall had become exceptionally noisy that day. Yin Ping and his entire faction immediately lowered themselves into deep bows, offering humble greetings to the newly arrived senior. It was understood by all present that an alchemist held a status far beyond ordinary elders. The sect's very supply of elixirs depended solely on him, granting him the most distinguished position of anyone currently in the sect. Ignoring the prostrations, Sufu turned his attention directly to the elder on the ground, questioning if he was indeed Zhang Fengnian. The elder confirmed his identity, his voice weak. Without warning, Zufu directed a buzzing surge of qi toward the kneeling elder. He followed the action by producing a small pill and tossing it precisely into the elder's mouth, visibly stabilizing the man with the continuous flow of his spiritual energy. The elder immediately lowered his head in thanks, but Su Fu, demonstrating generational respect, waved off the gratitude, noting that they were of the same seniority. He then issued a sharp question, instantly causing Yin Ping to sweat profusely as he requested the elder reveal the identity of his assailant. Zufu's focus immediately moved to the disciplinary group, his own qi flaring outward in a palpable wave of power as he fixed his gaze upon them and demanded to know the perpetrator. With the force of Su Fu's qi pressing down, Yin Ping slowly stepped forward, admitting with halting speech that he was the one who struck the elder, claiming the offense was an unintentional accident. In an immediate, violent flash of outrage, Su Fu struck the official across the face. He sternly denounced the top disciple of the disciplinary hall, demanding to know how he dared to assault an elder so severely, and questioning if he possessed a death wish. Yin Ping instantly dropped to his knees, frantically begging the elder for forgiveness and asking for a single chance at reprieve. Su Fu delivered a sharp refusal, stating that such an easy admittance of fault rendered the entire disciplinary hall pointless. At that precise moment, Su Fu looked toward the sound of an approaching voice, which questioned the cause of his fury. Zhao Zhaijing, the voice's owner, was revealed as he domineeringly advanced into the hall. Still kneeling, Yin Ping grew visibly more nervous. Su Fu wasted no time, stating directly to the newcomer that he needed to discipline his disciple. Zhao Zhaijing immediately demanded an explanation from his kneeling student, asking what was occurring. Yin Ping stammered, finally admitting that he had accidentally injured Elder Zhang Fengnian. Zhai Jing responded by repeating the elder's name, confirming the identity while quickly offering a justification for his disciple's action. Elder Zhang Fengnian had been expelled from the mountains years ago by his own master. Sufu, however, loudly dismissed this defense, arguing that the elder was still fundamentally a member of the Hengyu sect. He commanded the newcomer to properly discipline his disciples, demanding to know how the head disciple of the disciplinary hall could dare to offend an elder, an action that set a detrimental example for the entire mountain. Yi Chen, watching the tide turn entirely in his favor, slowly exhaled the breath he had been holding. Su Fu's gaze then settled upon the shackled youth. Without waiting for counsel, the alchemist declared his intention. He would take this disciple away. The group of main disciples muttered uncertainly among themselves. Su Fu immediately challenged their hesitation, asking pointedly if they harbored any objections to his decree. Yin Ping, still kneeling, risked a reply, his voice now deferential. The elder must understand that the youth had committed a capital crime by utilizing the Heaven Thunder incantation within the sect's bounds. Zhai Jing cleared his throat, cautiously attempting to assert his authority by citing the severity of the capital crime and expressing his apprehension regarding the alchemist's plan to simply take the disciple away. However, his justification was interrupted by a shout from behind, insisting that Yi Chen had only used the incantation in self-defense. Bertu, rushing into the hall, loudly accused the main disciples of having shamefully taken turns fighting Yi Chen in the cloud arena. The anxious main disciples watched as Bertu pressed his case, pointing out the disgrace of so many warriors beating a single opponent at the spirit concentration realm. The neutral disciples in attendance loudly agreed that their actions were shameless. Bertu continued his devastating testimony. Yi Chen had been beaten nearly to death and, unable to continue, attempted to leave the arena, only for his opponents to forcibly compel him back to continue the fight. When Yi Chen refused, they attacked him collectively, launching deadly strikes. The witness implored the elder to investigate the full situation, arguing that Yi Chen had been left with no alternative but to use the forbidden incantation to protect his life. Su Fu turned back to Zhai Jing and calmly inquired about the punishment for a disciple who seriously injures another member of the sect. Zhai Jing reluctantly confirmed the punishment was a capital crime. The master disciple looked on in shock as Su Fu immediately followed with a new, cutting question. What then was the offense for the wanton beating of an elder? Zhai Jing, clearly struggling, conceded that this, too, was a capital crime. Su Fu delivered his definitive command to the stunned officials, declaring that if the situation contained so many capital offenses, then the only just recourse was to execute every one of them immediately. Dismayed, Zhai Jing questioned if Su Fu truly understood the implications of having all of them killed. Su Fu continued to press his advantage, arguing that his proposed solution demonstrated that the disciplinary hall was truly impartial and strict. He questioned why, since all parties had committed offenses that qualified as capital crimes, only the disciple named Yi Chen should face execution. Su Fu insisted that if Yi Chen was to be executed, then all the others who had committed capital crimes should also be executed. Zhai Jing, trapped by the irrefutable logic, could only quietly acknowledge that Su Fu had deliberately complicated the situation. Su Fu met this complaint with a challenge, asking if the situation was complicated, and then declared he would make it easier. He announced his compromise. He would take Yi Chen back to his own peak and administer the punishment there. As for the disciples from the two opposing peaks and Yin Zhaiping, he declared that Zhai Jing could deal with them as he saw fit. Zhai Jing, having no superior alternative, finally gave his reluctant assent. Yin Ping, still kneeling and distraught, attempted to appeal to his master, but Zhai Jing swiftly silenced him with a shout of command, announcing that the official would be confined to the ice prison beginning the following day. As the official absorbed his punishment, the chains binding Yi Chen clattered to the ground, signifying his release from the disciplinary hall's immediate grasp. Bertu approached Su Fu as the elder prepared to depart, offering a farewell and urging the elder to exercise caution. Yi Chen offered his thanks to Beartu, but his friend immediately dismissed the need for gratitude, assuring Yi Chen that he was now safe and should focus on resting. Meanwhile, in a private establishment situated high above the mountain, two peak elders were receiving a report. One of the elders confirmed the name Sufu with the reporting disciple, who affirmed that the alchemist had nearly fallen out with Elder Zhai Jing over the matter. Qing Yang mused aloud about whether the conflict was due to the unique nature of Yi Chen's talent. On the other hand, Gi Hong conceded that with Su Fu's unexpected protection, it would prove far more difficult to orchestrate Yi Chen's removal from the sect. As the scene abruptly shifted, mysterious smoke whirled into a room where Yi Chen rested, causing him to jolt awake. He found Beartu at his bedside, who greeted him with laughter and remarked on how soundly he had slept and how he had even drooled on his shoulder. Yi Chen, unamused, told him to stop laughing, stating that he had lost all his spiritual energy and had nearly been killed. He asked where they were, and Beartu informed him that they were at the elixir house. Beartu's tone then changed as he apologized. As Yi Chen stretched and asked why, Beartu confessed that in order to save his life, he had been forced to tell Su Fu about his samadhi fire. With an exhale of acceptance, Yi Chen sat up and stated that he did not blame him. Otherwise, the head of the elixir house would never have known him. After a moment of silence, Beartu offered his assessment, admitting that while the old man looked decent, he was also creepy. Now standing, Yi Chen moved to the window and asked about the man's personality. Beartu immediately identified Yi Chen's true concern, his fear that Su Fu would take away the samadhi fire. Yi Chen resigned himself to this, noting that since the man had saved his life, he was in no position to refuse. Beartu gravely warned him to pray, emphasizing that the samadhi fire was so important to an alchemist that even a decent man might be tempted to take it. Just as he finished this warning, Zufu himself entered the room, observing simply that he had awakened.